Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU. All right, good people, it's another episode and of course another reason to love your HBCU. I'm always excited when we have a newbie, and Dr. Joseph L. Jones is a newbie by way of Philander Smith University. You are our first guest that's an alum or student of Philander Smith University. Dr. Jones, how are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful. How about you?
I can't complain. I'm excited, and we only have but 45 minutes, and I'm not going to waste a single second. My excitement is born out of, if anybody is only listening to us and not watching, you're missing out. So behind Dr. Jones is a wall of books. And I've literally been reading the titles, and I'm going to be asking him about some of the content in the titles very soon. Dr. Jones, I could not get, that's not true. I was about to lie, but I don't lie well. I was about to say I could not get through your bio. I could get through his bio, but I was going I'm insinuating the reality that you have a very rich bio and a very rich background. Who highlight it for us? When you, because I want it to come from you. You've got a
Right.
lot there.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfair to ask you to pick which one's your favorite child. That's not fair to ask. But
Right.
what are the items in the long history of work that you've done that you're like, these are some of my proudest moments. These were some of the proudest things that I did in those spaces. What would those be for you?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on. I've been following the podcast for some time, and so I reached out because I thought I have something to say.
Yes, you do.
So, just real quick, a real spill about my background. All of my education has been at Black colleges. All my whole entire work history has been at Black colleges, and all of those have been intentional. I
Yeah.
went to Philander Smith College, now Philander Smith University, as an undergrad. And then from there, I went to Clark Atlanta, got my master's and PhD. All of my degrees are in political science. And so my first teaching job was at Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte. Then I came back to my alma mater to start the Social Justice Institute at Philander Smith College. I can say I was really, really proud of that. Going back home to actually start something, to me was very, very special because Philander, as a student, really, really exposed me to a numerous amount of experiences. And so I had a debt. I had read in my ledger that I needed to pay back to my alma mater. I call it my alma mater because
I
it is
heard
my alma
that.
mater.
That wasn't a mistake. Okay.
It wasn't a I mean, it really is. And so, I love dear Philander. And so going there for those 4 or 5 years, really, really working with students. And the height of the time that I was there was at the beginning or the beginnings of what, we would call the Black Lives Matter movement. And so helping students think through, taking them to Ferguson, having them think through state-sanctioned violence, all those types of things was really, really rewarding to get them to understand the importance of becoming what we call a social justice advocate. I can say the mission of Philander, because we all know it. Philander Smith College is dedicated to graduating academically accomplished students grounded as social justice advocates dedicated to change the world for the better. We are a social justice institution of higher education. And so to go back and to build that and to work with students to get them to realize that was really, really special for me. And I really enjoyed my time going back there. Not to say there wasn't bumps and bruises, because anytime you try to do social justice work, it comes with all the things. But I was really, really proud of that time at my alma mater.
I write a lot down as people are talking. It's intentional. My brain cannot collect everything that people are saying. You just used a phrase that I'm hearing for the very first time. you said that Philander Smith University, then college, is a social justice university of higher learning.
Yes.
That makes me smile.
Hmm.
And the reason why that makes me smile is when a university decides to embrace that as its identity, that speaks volumes.
Hmm.
And dare I say, it also requires action and
Yeah.
work behind that. I'm ignorant to this, so you will educate me. What are some of the big, and when I say movements, I don't mean it in the traditional sense of the word movement, but what are some notable things that members of Philander Smith University, then college, have been instrumental in moving forward in
Yeah.
social justice advocacy work?
Yeah, yeah. So it's embedded in our history. I mean, we have very, very famous alumni, and I'll just name a couple who I think really personifies the kind of social justice ethos that we embrace. Our probably most consequential alumnus is Dr. James Cone. Dr. James Cone is the founder of Black Liberation Theology. He went to Philander Smith College as an undergrad, and then spent the rest of his academic life at Union University. But James Cone's theology was basically a theology of liberation, taking
Hmm.
Christianity and anchoring it in the experiences of Black people. And so all his whole entire scholarship was about making certain that the Black church, or Black churches rather, would embrace an ethic of liberation as opposed to just, going to church, singing the hymns, and not actually bringing heaven to earth. And so his work, if anybody knows anything about theology, people are going to be reading about James Cone 100 years from now. There are
Hmm.
very, very few scholars that, that come through our generations that have that kind of impact on a discipline. I mean, like James Cone is to theology like Plato is to philosophy, I would say. He is that consequential, and people who know the name know the heaviness. And James Cone he loved Philander. He loved it very, very much. I'll give you another one. The founder of Black psychology, Robert Williams, was a graduate of Philander Smith College. What we understand and how psychology itself began to, Black psychologists rather, take the discipline and make it their own and try to understand the very unique conditions that Black people here in America and abroad are wrestling with, whether that's post traumatic slave syndrome, internalized oppression. Robert Williams was on the cusp of doing that kind of research. Both of these individuals, went to Philander Smith College, and they got their training from teachers. And then I can talk about students during the 60s who were very active in the, I guess, civil rights movement in Little Rock, Arkansas, going to diners, trying to desegregate. Jocelyn Elders is the first Black woman Surgeon General. She graduated from Philander Smith College. Like it's something in the space that just pushes us to say that the way that society is right now is not okay, and it requires each of us who come through that institution to actually do something to change the world for the better. And so, those two individuals, I think, really capture, and we tell the story of these individuals, of course, to
Yeah.
students and alumni, and parents, and that's what anchors us. And there are not a lot of HBCUs that have two giants that graduate from a small little HBCU in Little Rock, Arkansas. So proud of that.
So I happen to know Philander Smith College, Philander Smith University, but each time I mention it, people say, "Huh?" And then I tell them it's in Arkansas, and they're like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
I don't bring that up as a dig. I bring that up to state that there are very few, I believe, high school students who will be entering college that are going to put Philander Smith University or Philander Smith College on their radar, even
Right.
when it comes to your HBCU tours.
Right.
So what I like about what Dr. Jones has just done, and I am talking to the high schooler, wherever you are, who has an affinity for social justice work. It's impossible for me to have heard what Dr. Jones just said and not want to knock on Philander Smith College's door and find out if that's the space for me, if I'm somebody who is decided that social justice advocacy work is what I want to do. So I wanted to say that because I think I'd be kidding myself, and I'm glad you nodded when I made the statement. I don't think too many people have that on their list, not because they don't want to, but because of the location.
Yeah.
Typically, HBCUs that find themselves on the eastern and northeastern corridor are lucky because there are quite a few of them. And so you can literally take a bus ride. I keep going up and down because you can take a bus
Yes.
ride and just go all the way down and hit quite a few of them. You're not taking too many bus rides towards Arkansas to go
Mhm.
to, and there are few of them. There's
Yes.
University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. So I happen to know these
Yeah.
universities because I study HBCUs, but to the high schooler listening to us right now, if you happen to be a social justice advocacy person, put Philander Smith College on your list, take a visit, or at least read up a whole lot more on them. Dr. Jones, I'm going to treat you to our rapid fire segment
Okay.
before I run through a number of the titles. And the good thing is you're looking at me, you're not looking behind you, so you don't know the titles I'm going to pick. So this is going to be exciting. However, let's quickly treat you to our amazing rapid fire. 67 seconds on the clock. If you're ready, I'll go. You ready?
Let's go.
Describe your HBCU experience, and I'm talking about your undergraduate HBCU experience, in one word.
Transformational.
Transformational. If your time in college was a song, what song would it be?
Oh, wow. Jeez.
I love this one.
That's a hard one. I would have to draw on my, I guess, my hip hop background, and I would say, "All Eyes on Me," Tupac Shakur.
Okay, yes. Okay, Tupac is one of my favorite. Okay, what would you have wanted to tell your college roommate but didn't?
Oh. Hope he doesn't watch this.
I want to hear it
That he was
now.
very slow at everything, and that he really needs to take more haste in what he did. What he did. I hope he's learned that now. He's actually become a doctor himself. He's a chiropractor. So
Okay.
big shouts out to Rob.
Move a little faster, Rob. On a scale of 1 through 10, how good of a student were you?
I would say a I would say a 7.
A 7. I love the honesty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out I'm sure you are a lot of, I've just been told that the time's up, but I'm still going to ask this question. I am sure you are a lot of people's favorite professor, but I want you to shout out your favorite professor, person at Philander Smith University.
That's my former Dr. Raphael Lewis, who just passed a couple of years ago. So he was my frat brother, my friend, my mentor. He's the one that brought me into political science. And so he, hands down, Dr. Raphael Lewis, Jamaican born political scientist who was no nonsense and was always honest about my effort in class. And I use that today with my students.
May his soul rest in peace. Thank you so much for that. Before I get to the book titles, how did you select Philander Smith College at the time? I want to hear your college selection journey. Why and how?
Oh, it's a story. So
Uh,
so I, to be honest, when I was in high school, I was a mediocre student. I might have graduated maybe with a 2.0. I took the ACT, might have gotten a 15. Like I wanted to be a hip hop producer. That was
Okay.
my that's what I really wanted to do. But then my mom gave me some options. She said, get a job, get out of my house, go in the army, get out of my house, go to college, get out of my house, or just get out of my house.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Looking at those options, I decided, and I graduated from high school in Missouri. My dad was in the army, so we traveled around everywhere.
Okay.
And so my older brother went to University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, UAPB. and he
Yeah.
was graduating the same year I was graduating high school. And so he wanted me to come down there, and I thought about it, and I said, no, if I go there, then I'll just be known as his little brother. And I want to create my own identity. So I went to the library, and I opened up a book, and I said, I know I wanted to go to an HBCU, and I found this small little HBCU called Philander Smith College. Never seen it before in my life, didn't know anything about it, but I didn't. I knew I didn't want to go to UAPB, and so I wrote and I applied. I got in, and the rest is history.
I
And
love it. I love it. It tells me, listening to your story, it's actually not a crazy story. It says take a chance. Seriously, take a chance.
mhm,
And for those who happen to be believers and believers in higher spiritual
yes,
entities is what I'm referring to. Some things sight unseen, that's what we
yeah,
define faith to be, right? End up
yes.
being the best things to work out. So look at that. It's not a crazy story after all.
Oh, no, yeah, it set my life up for the rest of my life. Absolutely. And
Yes. I'm excited. You are black political thought through and through. It's what you teach, it's what you everything has been political science for you. So, um before before I talk about what your real thoughts about our political landscape is,
mhm,
I wanna ask about your book. So, how about we
yes,
play this game? You're the only person I can play this game with, which I kind of love, because the books are right behind you. I'm going to name a title. Going to name a title,
hmm
and you're going to tell me in one sentence why we should or should not read it. Now, because you teach Black political thought, and work with me, everyone, i.e. audience, I
hmm
see three bookcases, I'm sure there are more.
hmm
People who teach particular subject matters will collect on everything written about them.
hmm
So I'm fully aware that just because Dr. Jones has it behind him does not necessarily mean he loves or does not love the book. So that's why I'm asking you to hasten the process for us, right?
Right.
Tell us why we should or should not. Sister Citizen.
Sister Citizen. Oh my God, Melissa Harris Perry. Everyone should read that book because I think what Dr. Harris does is really, really situate the complexity of particularly Black women and this whole notion of citizenship. She talks about how citizenship is usually defined as somebody who is patriotic, somebody who serves in the military, somebody who who's in elected office. But then she flips the whole notion around citizenship and how ordinary people, particularly Black women, show up in the political process. And so, if you're thinking that the only way that you can show up as a citizen is by voting, read Melissa Harris Perry's book. I know this is more than one sentence, but I can talk a whole lot because she really marries and really takes the time to convince, I think, what we already knew to be true is that Black women are the model citizens of America.
I know I told you for one sentence, but I would sit here and listen to all the reasons for or against any of these because it encapsulates for us. I remember when Sister Citizen came out, and one of the universities that I'm associated with actually had a Melissa Harris Perry come out, and you could not have summarized, at least for me, any
Mm-hmm.
better the reason why. Okay, the sum of us.
To some of us. So in that book, it talks about the importance of how racism impacts everybody, including white people. What Heather does in that book is really, really talk about how public policy itself, although racist public policy itself, how it is designed to hurt Black and brown people. But what she does brilliantly in the book is really talk about how it actually hurts white people as well. And so I think it's a really, really good book for people to understand that even the intent around trying to do harm against other people, it backfires and it hurts everybody.
Black, not historically black, towards the pan-black college and university.
Well, since it's the book I wrote, I should be able to. You should write
I
this.
had
You should
to.
read. Yes, you should read this book because it is my love letter to black colleges. It's a tough love letter in a sense that it's a
Mm.
critique. Um, it is biographical. It's polemical, but it's also solution oriented. And I wrote this book for three particular audiences: students, those who want to be leaders in HBCUs, and alumni, for us to take serious around what we need to do to really, really improve our institution. So yes, buy black, not historically black.
So can we? I've got two more books on your shelf that I'm going to ask about, but before I do, because everything you just shared about black, not historically black, is so aligned with the question mark in "I love my HBCU question mark," and something tells me that might have been the reason why you reached out to us. Um, um, solutions.
Mm.
Oh, Lord. You know how when you know what you want to say, but 25 different questions or thoughts are competing in your head? That's what's going on with me right now.
Yeah.
You made to me an extremely powerful statement when you said there's a lot that we are challenged by and with. I'm the one rephrasing it that way. But you talk about what kinds of solutions we should be looking towards.
Hmm.
And people are not going to like me saying this, but I'm going to say this. Before we get to solutions, we have to start with accountability and admission, if you ask me, because what exactly are we solving if we have
Right.
not done the biography that you said the book entails? Why do we have such a problem, Dr.
Mm,
Jones,
mm.
being openly accountable with the issues that are present with our HBCUs? We know they're there. We know they're
Mm.
there. But Tosin, so Dr. Jones is not the one saying this, Tosin is the one saying this. I feel that sometimes we have the philosophy of don't talk about the dirty linen
Yeah.
outside, don't let other people see it.
Yes. Yes.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? What is your take on that? And can we get to solutions ever? Because you talked about that and I appreciate it. But can we get there if we don't do this first?
Yeah. No, I don't think we can. And so, it's fitting that we're talking on this day. This day is the birthday of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, February 23rd, 2026. My whole entire book is anchored in Du Bois's, one of his last books. It's called The Education of Black People, 10 Critiques. And in this book, Du Bois offers his criticism of black colleges. These are speeches. These are primarily speeches he delivered at his alma mater and other places. And so I anchor his work. The beginning of every chapter starts with a book from Du Bois. I mean, a quote from Du Bois, um, and that's a reminder to the reader that my criticisms are not new, and that
Mm,
to the 20th century, like we did this very often. People like Langston Hughes, Carter G. Woodson, Du Bois were very, very vocal and honest, and it kept us in a very public sphere. It kept people accountable about having conversations about some of these things. In fact, I start the book off when you open the first page of the book. There's a quote from Du Bois where he goes back to his alma mater. And he says there are three gifts that a graduate can bring back to its institution. He says the first gift is the gift of gold. And he says, the gift all institutions need money and so on and so forth. But he said that's not the best gift. He said the second gift that an alum can bring back is a gift of accomplishment. Like, what have you done after you left to kind of to extend the life of your alma mater? But he said that's not the best gift either. He said the best gift that an alum can bring back to his institution is the reverence of truth, the hatred of hypocrisy, right? And so and he goes back to his alma mater. He says this, to because he is saying that this is something that we it is our charge, it is our duty to speak these things and to say these things in love, right?
In
If we are
love.
truly going to, if we're going to change our institutions, you can't just gloss over things and expect things to change. We got to have a hard conversation. So yes, I don't believe in the keep things in the closet kind of philosophy because um, to me, I think a lot of the stuff that happens in our institutions is the worst kept secret in higher education. And we're the only ones who are just sitting around thinking that nobody is seeing this. And a lot of this, another thing that I anchored this book in is Toni Morrison's approach, where she talks about the white gaze, right, and how so many people are concerned about what white people are thinking. So we come together and we're quiet because we're afraid or we're ashamed of what they might think about if they really well they already know. Most
Yeah.
people already know the kind of stuff, the contradictions that are going on. And if you have that kind of motivation around how you talk about institution, black colleges, then you're never going to solve any of the issues.
Oh, at the risk of, I think I get cancelled every day anyway in the comments. At the risk of being cancelled again today in the comments.
I'll join you.
Ah, Lord have mercy. I don't know if it's a good place to be, Dr. Jones.
Put it on me.
um, listen, it's okay. At the risk of being this person, we've got Mackenzie Scott, God bless her
Yes,
heart,
yes,
giving
yes,
monies
yes,
single-handedly making
yes,
generational
yes,
difference at
yes, yes,
HBCUs. That's my way of stating it, like
yeah,
generational difference at HBCU. Many HBCUs endowments tripled and quadrupled
yes,
immediately because of her.
yeah,
And you're an academic, I'm an academic. We know how important endowments
yes,
are at an institution. It could be your savior.
yes,
Um at the risk of, I'm not ungrateful, I'm extremely grateful to the Mackenzie Scotts of the world, the singular, the Mackenzie Scott of the
yeah,
world, because no one else has joined her yet.
right,
Come on,
right.
people. Money's not the answer. When do
No,
you think, yeah, and that's where I had to caution myself a little bit, right? um we can throw money at this, and that's not what Mackenzie Scott has done. I do not
mhm,
believe that's what Mackenzie Scott has done, and I applaud every university president who has chosen to put a good chunk of it in their endowment as opposed to in other ways. And many of them, if not all of them, have done that. Money is not the answer. You can't just throw money at this problem. And I was not aware of the gifts that you mentioned, so I wrote them down, and I appreciate that. Reverence and truth, reverence of truth and the hatred of hypocrisy is the most important, and not necessarily gold, i.e., money. But that's what we say we want, Dr. Jones.
right,
Every HBCU says if you just gave us more money, we
yeah,
would X, Y, and Z.
yeah,
Talk about the fallacy of that statement.
yeah.
And if that's the focus, do we want to do any better? Do we want to be accountable? Or are we just warming our jaws when we say that?
Yeah, the first chapter in the book after the introduction is called Leadership, Not Misleadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Um, and so you're right. It's a little bit of a calculus. You got to have leadership that has a mindset and understanding of how you're going to use funds, how you're going to support faculty, what are you going to do to create an environment where students are actually learning and thriving. And so that to me is the important question. And I think, just looking over the past 5 to 7 years, and UNCF has done a lot of research on this, we see this massive turnover of presidents at HBCUs. And I mean, whether it's presidents or a board of directors, a board of trustees, one way or another, it's a leadership thing. And so until we get that right, until we really focus on that, I think that, the money is helpful. But one of the things at least I know about higher education or any institution, is that longevity in leadership is a really, really good bellwether of how effective an institution is going to be able to thrive, right?
Mm,
Because what happens at a lot of HBCUs is that when one president comes and another president goes, I mean, there's a turnover in all administrators. So the institution is constantly being remade, like every 2 or 3 years. You can't create anything sustainable unless you have leadership that's going to be there to be able to build out a vision in which you can create something for students and alumni. And so we got to get that right. We do. Yes, we need money. I'll be clear. We definitely need
absolutely.
the money, but we gotta deal with this leader. That's why the first chapter is called Leadership, Not Misleadership, because I go there and I have a lot of words for what I describe as presidential misleaders or board misleaders, and how we need to put systems of accountability in place as a solution to ensure that those who are running our institutions are doing it and stewarding it in a way that is beneficial and not detrimental.
Dr. Jones, can I go there? And when I say can I go there, again, your bio is steep. You are a former president of a
Yes,
university, and
yes,
there's news out there. The news does not lead anywhere is my challenge, so I don't know. What
right,
was your experience? You also had a short term as
yes,
the leader of a university, and I'm going to
yes.
guess that you're speaking also from that perspective. That's my guess. Um, what would you say to those who would say to you that maybe he did not take his own advice? And again, let me be clear. Tosin is
Mhm.
speaking as somebody who does not know the details.
Right,
Tosin, because all the articles that I've read,
yeah,
they don't provide the details.
right,
So
right,
Tosin
right.
is speaking as somebody who does not know the details, but I've heard you talk about what some of the need is, and it reminded
Yes,
me, wait, hold on, I'm talking to
yeah,
somebody who
yes,
I should be looking at because
yeah,
he's a former leader of one of these institutions.
right,
What to those who would say, well, sir, did you take your
yeah,
own advice? What would
yes.
your response be?
Yes, I did. I did take my own advice, and I tried. And without getting deep into the details, because I'll just be utterly transparent, it did end into a lawsuit, and
Wow.
we ended up settling. And part of our settlement is that I'm not going to say anything about them.
And
They're
they're
not going to
not
say
going to
anything
say
about me.
about you.
That's why even in
Respect
the book
it.
I don't say anything about my experience. But the book is informed by my experience,
Got it.
right?
Got
And
it.
and so, but no, I can say, without speaking in specificity, yes. Um, and I'll bunch them together. Presidents and board of trustees
Mm,
members are the issue, and you have a mismatch, right? And sometimes a misalignment in values and vision. And so so it could happen either way. You can have a president who really wants to do something progressive, who really wants to do something that, and then you have a board who's just like, no, we don't want you to do this. We want you to do something better. And then you can have a board that says, yes, we want you to do this for our institution. And you can have a crooked president. And so it can go either way. But without, like I said, getting
of
myself back in
course.
court.
Of course. And we don't want that for
I
either
would say
party.
that's ultimately, but I can say without a doubt, and you can ask anybody about the situation, is that I did everything that I could, I know, to and I'm proud of the work that I did at Arkansas Baptist College. So
I will always appreciate somebody who at least responds as opposed to somebody who chooses not to. So I appreciate you for that. And I gave the disclaimer, I know no details and
yes,
I do not want you back in court. So I don't want
yes,
either party back in court.
yes.
I want to talk about We Are Not the Same. It's one of your scholarship pieces that you've done. But
Mhm.
before we do, I've got two more titles that I want to throw at you.
Oh,
Blackout, Candace Owens, thoughts? You knew, come on, you know I was gonna ask. Like, come
so
on.
Ken, so Candace, as I mentioned, I teach a class called African American Political Thought, and one of the things that I try to do in that class is provide the watershed of Black political thought, even people I don't even disagree with. And what I think there's utility in with some of what Candace says, particularly her critique on the Democratic Party and how Black people have just acquiesced to the party and not actually have taken time to actually find space in that party to put forth our goals and our whims, and how sometimes and most of the times the Democratic Party exploits Black communities. I think she's spot on that. But I think we should read our critics. You know, one of my
Mm,
professors always told me, you know,
mm.
you can't critique anything you haven't read. Like I can't seriously take Candace Owens to task if I haven't actually sat down and wrestled with her work. And I've wrestled with it. I've read it, you know, and it's on my library, you know, and people come in and they see it. And I'm like, yes, I have to. As I have to be a responsible scholar. I have to just not read things I agree with. I have to read things I disagree with. But no, Blackout is a collection of essays. And my students really wrestle with because they have the same reaction, like, why are we reading her? And I'm like, we need to,
We
because
should.
it
We
offers
should.
something, whether you agree with her or not. You need to know why you don't agree with her or not. And sometimes my students are surprised that sometimes they agree with her.
I so so when I saw her name on your in your library, it
Hmm.
wasn't my reaction wasn't why Candace Owens. It was
Hmm.
why Candace Owens, which is different. So it wasn't accusatory. It was,
Yeah, of
I
course.
want to know the reason
Yeah.
behind it. And the reason
Right.
why I'm stating this and I am signifying the difference between the why and why is I do feel this is a Tosin statement, not a Dr. Jones statement. I do feel that we are in a world with a lot of young ones who the level of groupthink, even though they think it's a unique thought, isn't unique.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the when you look at cancel culture for
Hmm.
2.5 seconds,
Yeah.
the idea of cancel culture has become it has become a culture of if you don't agree with the popular thought, and I'm
Hmm.
not saying this is singularly what cancel culture is,
Right.
but if you don't agree with the ideas of popular thought, we need to cancel you.
Hmm.
You said that you should have in your library, and you do have in your library a mixture of authors you agree with and authors that you disagree with.
Hmm.
And to me, that's the definition of explorative critical thinking. And I
Hmm.
just don't think we do as much of it
Right.
anymore. Our social media, the algorithm gives us what it is we typically like because it sees that that's what we're engaged with, as opposed to it shocking our system and making sure that, okay, if you don't like Dr. Joseph Jones, it's okay for you not to like him, but don't shouldn't you have a perspective on why you don't like him?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And if you do like him, same thing, perspective
Right.
of why you like
Right.
him, as
Right.
opposed to it being this blind
Mhm.
dislike or like. So
Right.
I hope your students hear you. I hope any students listening to us hear us, that you shouldn't just have in your portfolio of knowledge the things you agree with. You
Right.
must have in your portfolio of knowledge the things that you are indifferent to, as well
Yes.
as the things that you disagree with, because it might not even be a disagree. You might just I'm one of the only people I know, Dr. Jones, who's a true independent. And what I mean by that is you will catch me supporting a Republican
Right.
and you will catch me supporting a Democrat. You're going to
Right.
catch me supporting both because
Right.
I'm selfish. I'm
Right.
looking at the issue. Let's be very
Right.
clear. I
Right.
am
Right. Right.
selfish. I
Right.
am looking at the issue and I'm asking myself, whose interests are you
Hmm.
safeguarding? Are you
Right.
safeguarding yours? Or are you safeguarding ours? And ours to me is more important than yours. Last title I'm going to throw at you. I see her name and I don't know which title it actually is. Stacey Abrams, our time is now. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Stacey Abrams' piece. I also teach Stacey in my class. I think it's an important book because what Stacey really does is really talk about the importance of voting and organizing, and particularly here in Georgia, what she's been able to do when she ran for governor. And of course, a lot of us think she should have won, and she did win, but it was stolen. We'll get into that another time. But
Some other day.
Stacey is a brilliant political thinker, strategist. You know, she served in the state house here in Georgia for some time. Spelman graduate, um, and someone who I think is one of the sharpest political minds of our generation in regards to how to mobilize large groups of people, multiracial groups of people, but particularly Black people, to actually be engaged in the political process. I think it's a really good compliment to Melissa Harris Perry's piece on Sister Citizen and how you actualize that, right? So I think that that's how it kind of dovetails, and I really enjoy the book.
I listened to you talk, and the only word, if Tosin were making that statement, that I would wrestle with is political process. Um, I think when you use the word political with humans, especially humans in the United States of America, who prefer to think they're apolitical, is ooh, 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 ooh. And the reality is, it's really with our organized processes, period.
Right.
And it's why Melissa Harris Perry, if I may, becomes so important, because there is the non-voter who is as
Right.
impactful. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't vote. That's not what I'm
Right.
saying. I'm
Right.
simply saying everyone plays a political role, whether they realize it
Or
or
not.
not.
Absolutely.
And reading that book may enable you to realize the power you are yielding or refusing to yield,
Hmm.
whether you identify with politics or not. Um, we are not the same.
You've done your homework. I want to give you compliments on you.
Course. Of course. He sounds surprised. He doesn't know me. He sounds surprised.
I compliments.
I'll take it and I appreciate it. I've heard many a university president struggle with the rankings
Hmm.
of HBCUs. And what I enjoyed when I read your piece is it's not really, and you'll correct me. Well, I can't be wrong. It's my perspective of what I read, so I cannot be wrong. Actually, I was about to say you'll correct me if I'm wrong. No,
Right.
it's my
Right.
perspective from reading your piece, but I'm looking forward to hearing yours. Um, I don't necessarily read, even though you mentioned the US News and World Report and the rankings that all of us know of. I don't hear it as a comparison point between those rankings, as in rankings of your non-HBCUs, for lack of a better word,
Right.
and rankings of HBCUs. I see it, and it's the first time I've seen it written this way.
Hmm.
It's almost crying foul
Hmm.
of the rankings of HBCUs. Is that
Right.
it's so that's my read. That's my
Yes.
perspective.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So what inspired it? What inspired We Are Not the Same?
Okay.
And what's your perspective? Since I just shared my perspective of your work.
Yeah, you know, and so this comes to like the I guess my problem with and how we talk about Black colleges, how we talk about
Mm, mm,
HBCUs are diverse. There
very.
are public, there are private, there are religious based, there are community colleges. And so when you have one ranking system, when you have all these different colleges competing, it's just unfair
Yeah.
because there are different functions. I mean, and I wrote it, I'm gonna tell you why, because of where I'm at Clark Atlanta University, right? Because if you look at the rankings of the top 20 HBCUs in the US World Report, like probably 15 out of 20 are public HBCUs.
They are.
And
They
like
are.
you can't it's not it's apples and oranges. It's apples and nuts. Let's be clear. Because a public HBCU is supported by the state. You know, it for the most part has more resources, more sustainable. And so when we're looking at, you know, like a Spelman and a North Carolina A&T, It's like no, they're two different functions and two different institutions of higher education, and so what I wanted to do in this piece was just kind of disaggregate and just to try to provide people, the mosaic of HBCUs, and if we were to compare apples to apples, here's what the rankings would look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, what I end up drawing is that particularly Clark Atlanta University is probably in a class of its own. We are a private HBCU R2 university. There are no other private R2 universities. Okay. Now you can debate Howard. I don't believe Howard is a private institution. He gets government money all the time, and so I debate with my colleagues all the time about that. I'm like, you guys literally get appropriations from from from
As
Congress
a proud Howard University alum, I'm going to choose to be quiet right now.
but I'm just saying when you separate it out, I'm like we're in a class of our own, and there are not a lot of R1s, and I mean Howard just became an R1,
R1, yes.
and so when you start to think about that, I'm like now let's really look at and we can really compare. Let's compare colleges to colleges, private colleges to colleges. Let's
Yeah.
compare public universities to public universities. Then the rankings look totally different. But I think when you look at places like U.S. News World Report, they just because they're all black, they just lump them all together. All HBCUs, they all got the same designation, and it's not. It's very misleading, right? Because when you do that, you begin to start to see a Philander Smith University rise, right, in regards to where it's at, or a Fisk University, or some of these other institutions when they're in their own weight class. And I think that kind of clarity is important, particularly for students and parents who are looking for colleges and universities and so that's the reason why I wrote it. It's just because I've been frustrated for years about it. So that's why it was like we are not the same. We're not.
If I'm not mistaken, and someone who does research in real time will correct me if I'm wrong, I think they might have heard you because within the last couple of years, it's been very, very recent, they've
Mhm.
started separating them. So you've got Spelman now as the number one private
Yeah.
institution,
Mhm.
and I don't know who the number one public institution is. I should know this, but HBCU institution.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think they heard you and they're listening. I think there needs to be a bigger conversation on what the criteria of the rankings are as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
I used to be the naive academic who wanted us to do away with all the rankings altogether. But the reality is people look for them. Parents are
Yes.
looking for them. So as much as I don't like them because how do we truly measure these
Right.
institutions against each other? I
Right.
don't think that's possible, but because people are looking for these rankings, I don't think it's something we can do away with anytime soon. But I
Right.
would love it if those who are in the business of doing the rankings to revisit some of the criteria that they
Yeah.
use. It might make things a tad bit more equitable if they do.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
you and I, listen, we have surpassed our time, just FYI, and I'm not letting you know what the time is intentionally. Because I have one more thing that I do want us to talk about before we end our conversation, and that is the importance of the student voice and the importance of our youth. So those who know that I Love My HBCU question mark has a biannual summit called Generation Next Thought Leaders,
Mhm.
and it is currently the only summit I know of, or the only gathering I know of, where the experts in the room are the students and not the
Mhm.
other way around. So every panelist is a student.
Mhm.
They are not the professors. The
Mhm.
moderators are experts in their fields, but every panelist is a student. We started this in 2024. It was one day. This year, 2026, it's going to be 3 days. Pray for
Mhm.
us. Um, and those massive funders like Mackenzie Scott sent some money
Yes.
our way. Um,
Yes.
but it went from 1 to 3 days overnight for one main reason. The students didn't want to leave, Dr. Jones. It was
Mhm. Mhm.
all day. The first day was all day. I was exhausted. My very small team was exhausted, but they didn't want to leave. And we're located in Baltimore, Maryland, by the way. And we had students come from the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina. We had students come from Hampton University. So it wasn't just, oh, it's just the universities in Maryland that came. No, we had people traveling in. And I'm looking and I'm like, dear God, it's 8 o'clock. I'm tired. I want to go and sleep. And they're still talking. So we had to figure out, with their help, thankfully, we have figured out how we maximize
Mm,
bringing these voices together and having them engage in a very, very meaningful way. I ask you a question that I know the answer to, and so I'm not going to ask you again how important is the student voice. What I'm going to ask instead, because as I talked, I was like, Tosin, this is Dr. Jones you have with you. That's not the right question for him. The better question is, why aren't we engaging them more? And
mm,
why aren't we? We're not listening to them. They'll tell
mm.
you that. You and I are around them a lot. There might be a
Yes.
few of us listening to them.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
listening to them.
Yeah.
And we were once them, and we would have wanted to
Yes.
be listened to.
Yes.
Why are we missing the ball? Why aren't we talking to them more? Why aren't we listening to them?
That's a complicated thing.
Yeah.
So I think some of it is cultural. Some of it is, I think, is respectability politics. Some of it is that, and this is a critique I lay out in my book. Sometimes we treat at HBCUs, we treat students as if they're children, as opposed to young adults. And so if you treat a young adult like a child, then a child doesn't have a voice, right? And so you do as I say, not as I do. And I don't operate like that. I treat all of my students as the
Oh,
young
you're
men and women.
seen, not heard. That's a big one for me. You're seen, not heard.
And but I was one of those students raising hell as an undergraduate. And I was very fortunate at Philander to have administrators to respond in a very, very gracious way where they would take serious our issues. So I've been raising hell for almost 30, 40 years now. But you're right. There seems to be missing student voices. I think that's part of it. The other part of it is there's another piece I wrote um, back in August last year. It's called The Political Economy of Attention at Black Colleges. And I think that and I think that we're having this issue right now, particularly because of technology, because of social media. We can't students are having a hard time holding attention because of social media, because of the reels, because of and so even trying to provoke and trying to build community in our spaces um, it's hard. And so what I make the claim in the piece is that if black colleges are going to keep this special sauce of creating and nurturing and building community, we have got to deal with this attention economy. We have got to deal with this with our students so that they can maximize their voice and not be parrots, right? Of social media and everything, that they can think for themselves, that they can offer up their own ideas around things. And that's going to take, professors, administrators being really, really intentional about creating space um, that where attention can be used in such a way where their voices can come alive. Because right now, I don't hear authentic voices from students. I hear parrots. And so that I think is it's twofold. It's a cultural thing, and then it's a generational thing. It's a societal thing. It's AI. It's all the algorithms and things, and they come to us already with attention spans like this,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of work that we have to do to unravel that. But I want to say kudos to you in bringing these young people together because they definitely need a voice, a venue to be able to speak and to be able to be heard. So
I thank you for the kudos. I'll take it every day and twice on Sunday. But thank you for the kudos. Um, we are having this recording. The audience won't see it for a while, and by a while I mean about a couple of months or so. But we're having this recording within 7 days of Jesse Jackson passing,
yes.
and I did not know the ruckus that was Jesse Jackson in his early days
Mm.
until, because when somebody passes away, you read all these profiles. And so
Yep.
I've been watching and reading a lot of the profiles. And to the young ones, and the reason why this came to my mind is you said, and the you is Dr. Jones just said, you're hearing parrots as
Hmm.
opposed to students who are using their unique voices, and we should not be encouraging the parroting of our voices that we've heard that are not working. Most of the
Yep.
voices are not working, at least for
Yes.
now. They might have worked before, but they might not be working for now. There are some Jesse Jacksons in classrooms right now. There
Hmm.
are some Al Sharptons in classrooms right now. Guys, you're going
Yes.
to kill me for this, and I don't care. But there are Candace Owenses in some
Oh,
classrooms right now. There
oh
are
yes.
Stacey Abramses in some
Yeah.
class. Like there are people whose voices are so different
Hmm.
and whose voices are distinct.
Hmm.
We want to hear you. The Dr. Joneses of the world, the I Love My HBCU question mark platforms of the world want to hear you, because if Dr. Jones and I decide to do, which you have to come back for a part two, Dr. Jones,
Oh yeah,
but if
absolutely.
if we decide to do an episode just on the current political landscape,
Hmm.
it is going to become very clear to all of us that sure, there's some things that are working, but there's so many things that aren't. And the
Absolutely.
next generation is the one that is going to inherit and then decide. I think we should be engaging with them now and hearing what their thought processes are before those decisions get made. Dr. Jones, in
Yes.
one word or short phrase, why do you, Dr. Joseph L. Jones, love HBCUs?
Because it's family. I found my family, like I said, Philander Smith University is my alma mater. My classmates are my cousins and my brothers and my sisters. And, we fight, we struggle. And, this is kind of like the essence, the subtitle of my book, Towards the Pan Black College and University, because HBCUs are that microcosm where you have this array of black people who come from the diaspora, who come from the Caribbean, who come from the South, from New York and out west, who have different political ideologies and different experiences, but they're all in one space, all trying to make sense out of each other. And it's a sacred black space. And what I tell my students all the time, I said, invariably at some point in class, some students going to say, well, if all we got to do is, if black people, we all just come together. And I said, well, HBCUs, and this is the first word, the first sentence in my book. I said, black colleges are black communities. And if we can't get it right in black colleges, then we can't expect our communities to change. But if we get it right in HBCUs, we can change black communities because they're one and the same.
Dr. Jones, and to the amazing audience that tune in and engage with us, this has been an amazing conversation. I thank you, Dr. Jones, for being the better part of this conversation. Um, to those listening, I think it is impossible, especially if you're somebody who's invigorated by social justice advocacy and just the accountable love, that question mark, and I love my HBCU question mark. It's impossible for you not to go ahead and like this episode. And I hope that I've done my due diligence as your host and conversationalist in
Mhm.
encouraging you to subscribe to I Love My HBCU question mark on all your platforms. Yours in HBCU love. See you next episode. Dr. Jones, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU question mark. Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.